Hi, I'm Dan Whittaker. Today we are going to take a look at how you can use the ground to provide more power in your golf swing. So what I tend to see is I get a lot of players, really good players who I'm teaching, really trying to get their hips to turn. So highlighting this with the driver here across my hips, okay? We're talking about how the hips are going to rotate in the backswing. So there are more than one way to actually rotate the hips. So I see a lot of people in their effort to turn the hips, they end up locking out the right leg. So I've got loads of hip turn here. I've got loads of space for my arms, but my hips are actually over my left leg. So what is the difference between turning this way, where both hips are turning, so got that turn versus this turn, okay? They're both very, very similar, but what are the implications to your golf swing? Because they are quite similar to one another, and what are the bits that highlight those differences for your game? So to start with, what is it that's making it incorrect? Well, we know that we're trying to get those hips to turn inside of like a barrel, you know, the idea of you've got two lines either side, but when you move those hips too much towards the target, which would be in this sense, what you've got is your right leg's going to straighten too much, and in essence, to hit the golf ball correctly, you're going to have to flex the right leg again on the way down. I'm now moving away from the target, and then to try and get power, I'm going to be moving into it or really falling back away from the shot. The problem is this motion is not going to provide much power, and it's also really going to probably get me hitting either too far down or have a big issue on maybe contact. Now the big difference is when you're turning properly and you're loading, we're trying to get it that weight is moving into the right side without moving over it. So if you imagine I've got a line against my right hip here, okay, and it's not going to move from this line until right at the top of the backswing. So I start to turn and load, and then only at the top of the backswing, as the hips got loaded into the heel, now can I see that there's been some daylight, the thigh has got some pressure into it, and the weight is fully loaded into the right heel. Now the key from here is I've got something to push off on the way down. So I need to be able to push off into the ball. That doesn't mean I'm swaying to do it. I'm really trying to get the feeling of using the ground. So what we'll do is hit a couple of shots here. First one, I'm going to try and get the feeling of those hips moving a little bit towards the target, okay, and getting the feeling of how this is going to be happening. The right leg will probably straighten a little bit. So into the dress position right here, and we're going to see the right leg will straighten just a touch in the backswing. Hips are going to turn a lot. So if we have a look at the numbers right here, what we're going to see is, in terms of these numbers, clubhead speed is down for me. I'm like 3-4 down, and I always hit up on the ball. And right now, that one has had me 0.5 down. So that's not where I would ordinarily find myself. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to try another shot. So just put this right down here. So I'm going to try and do one which would be much more like my normal swing, and get the feeling of making sure at the same time that the weight is moving into that right leg. So moving into this right leg here, but I've never moved my weight beyond the center line of my right foot, keeping it right through there because that is the stability that we're trying to create. So got into the address position, have a little go at this, making sure we're not locking that right leg out. So we're seeing right now that on this shot, we're seeing that attack angle's gone back up again. It's up at 2.5, and it's made a huge difference. So 4.8 on the attack there, and the clubhead speed's gone up 4.5 miles an hour, and the distance in the shot is 30 yards longer. That is miles, okay? So that is only because of the way that the hips are loading. It makes such a big difference how you're going to be able to strike the golf ball effectively. So what I'm going to do is have a look at two really, really simple drills that can help you with this massively. Now the first one is, you just do this at home. Now get the golf club, put that against your shoulders here, okay, and use a line in the mirror, okay? So kind of using that as a reference point, what you're going to try and do is make sure you aren't moving away from this line too early. Okay, so if you're turning away too early, what we'd see is from this line right here, those hips moving and have cleared there straight away. The idea is we're going to try and move that weight into that right leg stay on that for as long as possible, and only right at the very end of the backswing, you'll see that bit of daylight. So it's just trying to stay on that line for as long as you can, but never moving beyond it. Then what we're going to try and do is just make some practice swings, moving this feeling onto the golf course. Okay, and what we're going to do is start off with the feet fairly close together here. Okay, I'm going to make a little bit of a step and load and feel that my right leg is squatting down in that backswing. So it's just making some movements and some practice swings where I'd simply go back, load, and then coming right through. Now, if you can get the feeling for this, you can hit balls with it. It's really, really difficult to time hitting shots with it. It's not something I'd massively encourage you to do. It's the overall thing is to just get you the idea of how to load without reversing that hip turn towards the target, which is really going to affect your golf shots. Now, takeaways from this, make sure that you're turning the hips properly and it's not towards the target, it is making sure that you're moving into that heel. Watch out for some more tips in the rest of our series coming on how you can get more power from the ground using driver, and also how you can also get more consistency with your irons.